Hey guys, what's up? It's Carl here, and we're going to start off with a new Ortho Squad Sidecast video. And this time we're going to talk about the different Orthodox churches around the world. So, to begin with, we're going to define what is Orthodox Christianity. Bryce, could you help me with that?
So, yeah, Orthodox Christianity. Well, I think the best way to go about it is to, you know, Orthodox in itself, the word, it has its foundations and our claim of authenticity. Orthos and doxa both pertain to truth. And that's something that we hold very uh, close and highly in our faith.
So, what sets us apart from different branches of Christianity, like Protestantism and Catholicism? I think for us, one of the main differences is that we trace our roots back to the earliest days of the church, and we put a big emphasis on really changing as minimally as possible. I think that's the key differentiating factor.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, in the West, I think people have this notion that Orthodoxy is like a more primitive version of Catholicism. Unfortunately, that's not the case at this point in time, and we're not in communion. But in the future, who knows? Um, Sky, did you have anything to add?
Sir. So, essentially, regarding the church, we believe in this thing called apostolic succession, which means we believe that we can trace our lineage back to the apostles, a physical lineage from spiritual father to spiritual son. For example, Antioch, which is what we'll get into in a moment. Carl and I are a part of. We trace our apostolic succession back from Peter and Paul, whose spiritual sons, for example, Paul, Timothy was one of his spiritual sons, and so on and so forth, who had spiritual sons, who so on and so forth had spiritual sons and spiritual sons, that you can trace all the way down, back down to our current bishops and patriarchs. So that's regarding apostolic succession. We believe that the Holy Spirit works through our bishops and so on and so forth through the church to guide the church to this
Yeah,
right belief.
and that's
That's
why we've got the different Orthodox churches. So there's
Hmm.
there's different liturgical practices and traditions, but we still have the same core sets of dogmas. And I think Bryce is going to fill us in on a bit more on the topic.
Yeah, and I guess before, just to kind of add on to what I previously talked about, like as far as like Catholicism and Orthodoxy, Catholicism, like they have a concept of development of doctrine, which is, you know, with us, uh, we
Would agree with
don't,
that.
哦，no, we
Oh,
don't,
sorry, no, we would not agree with that. Sorry, that's what
it,
my bad. We would not agree
yeah,
with that. But there's
because
a
like,
lot that we would kind of overlap. So what Sky was
mhm,
saying is apostolic succession. I'm sure they hold an emphasis on that, but the
yeah,
development on doctrine is something that differentiates us.
yeah,
We try not to develop doctrine at all. That's what we put a big emphasis on.
Yeah,
mhm,
I was gonna say we tend to deal with things when we get there. We cross that bridge. We don't think ahead to develop doctrine,
yeah.
usually ever. We usually
Truth is
cross
more
that
like
bridge. Yeah.
explicated. Hmm. But the other question you asked, yes, there's many different jurisdictions. Well, the two of the most I'd say is most popular is the Russian and the Greek. I myself go to a Greek. I'm part of the Greek uh, dossier of America, and under the Russians, you have, at least in America, you have the OCA, which is technically autocephalous, and then you have the Rokor Church, the Russian church outside of Russia.
Yeah.
So you're under OCA, I believe that's the Greek one, like you were saying. How,
Greek is an OCA.
that's yeah, they got
Yeah.
autocephaly from the right.
They
Yeah,
got
okay.
autocephaly from the
Hmm.
Russians in the 70s.
It's Go. I think it's
Go
Goark
Arch,
that's under.
Go
Go
Arch,
Arch,
Yeah.
yeah.
Go Arch.
So which
That's
one were you under, Bryce? Was it the
I'm
Greek
under
one?
Go Arch.
Okay, how's that? Are there many parishes in America in that jurisdiction?
Yeah, I would say that there is. Um, I really, I
there's a
haven't
lot.
looked at
There's
the
a lot by me.
statistics. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they're pretty popular.
So
Like my jurisdiction itself, my priest is Romanian, and Like often people think that, you know, you go to a Greek church, it's just going to be a bunch of Greeks, but you know, it's 90% converts and stuff. It's really
Yeah.
awesome.
And a lot, I would also say, I would also just side note, a lot of it also depends on the community of that church. Like, for example, if it's more Greek, there's going to be more Greek in the liturgy, whereas if it's mostly converts, the church will adjust to whatever
Mhm.
that community is.
So that's I was going to add to that. For example, the liturgical traditions do hold some kind of weight, but doesn't mean that the parishioners are that specific ethnicity.
Mm.
So the Slavonic liturgy has a significant weight in all of Eastern Europe and the Balkans. Antioch, for example, is technically under the Byzantine Rite.
Hmm.
It is under the Byzantine Rite, but doesn't mean that everyone that goes to an Antiochian parish is from somewhere near the Mediterranean or the Middle East,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
So you got to remember that.
and also,
Um,
I was just going to quickly add, some Antiochian churches are also under the Western Rite, which is a whole
yeah,
neat, which
that's
is
a
a whole
niche.
neat thing that I would like to talk about real quick. So Western Rite developed way later, and it was to kind of assist in bringing over Roman Catholics to make it a little bit easier. So they developed a whole. They have the Eastern Byzantine Rite, which is what is like default settings, and then you have the Western Rite, which would essentially be kind of like they tried to make a rite that would have been somewhat similar to the rite you would have seen before 1054, like by 1054 in the West. So they took certain aspects from the West, from Latin, from the Roman Latin rite, and kind of put it into a liturgy and made a whole liturgy around it. So that's for our Roman converts. So yeah.
Yeah. And I wanted to quickly, I guess, add before, you know, we wrap things up. Uh, because we're on different jurisdictions, you know, it's common, even for me as I started Orthodoxy, there's kind of a mindset, a tribal mindset, you know, my jurisdiction's better, or in all the others, like, you know, are not good, or like it's oftentimes it's on the line of like heresy as far as like how they talk about it. But you know, we are like we're unified in, as Carl talked about, in Sky, we're unified in faith, and it's in tradition. It's a wonderful thing, and so don't let you know, anyone tell you that, you know, one's not good enough, or
yeah,
you know.
exactly. So at the end of the day,
Also,
we're all Eastern Orthodox, that we share the same
yeah.
dogmas and core beliefs. Our liturgical traditions can change, and they do change, but doesn't change the fact that at the core, we believe the same dogmatic theology.
Hmm.
You were going to say
Also,
something?
yeah, Carl, would you mind speaking on what autocephaly is? Because I don't think we defined it.
So I think we're going to just do that before we wrap up quickly. And thank you for bringing it up. Autocephaly is basically when a church becomes large enough that it's now autonomous or able to run itself. So it has its own patriarch. That's autocephaly in a nutshell for any of you newer guys that might not be too familiar with the technical language. It's just, in short, when a church becomes large enough that it's acknowledged as its own autonomous, self-governing entity that then communes with the rest of the church.
Yeah. And right before we wrap up, I just wanted to see if you wanted to talk a bit about the church in Antioch, and then we
Cool.
could
Yeah, I'd
go
love to
on to.
talk about that. So Antioch, which I'm under, is has its root in the ancient city of Antioch, which is now in modern day Turkey. And it has a really rich liturgical tradition and a strong presence in the Middle East and now actually in North America. So
Mhm.
the way that Antioch works as a whole is they're very welcoming in general to, uh, I don't know, inquirers and people that are
Yeah,
not Antiochian. They're not as heavy set in their,
ethnicity, like ethnic backgrounds.
yeah, and that would be because Antioch is in and of itself not a centralized location. So
It's
under the
like
Antiochian Church, it's
we're
pretty
based out
much
of
most of the
Damascus,
East.
which is also another thing. Like though our name
Yeah,
is Antioch, is the Church of Antioch. We've been based out of Damascus, and I believe it had to do something with like a dispute between the Turkish authorities at the time, way back when, that they actually switched the city to Damascus, and our
that's
patriarchate is
right.
based out of Damascus.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Oh,
that's interesting point. And I think we're both talking about Antioch a bit much because we're both under Antioch.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
obviously you could really look at the history of all of the churches and it's very interesting stuff. So
Yeah.
if something that you guys as listeners like to read and look into, go for it. It's a lot of fun.
And
Um
I just wanted to break down some of the main names real quick regarding the churches. So I'm going to list a couple of the churches right now. So we have Antioch. It's of Antioch in the east. So technically it's just everything east of a certain boundary point. And then you have Moscow, which is I think it's technically the Greek Orthodox Church of Antioch in the east. The Greek or is it the Russian or Greek Orthodox Church of
so
Moscow?
Greek is synonymous in the 21st
Yeah.
century with Byzantine.
Yeah,
So
with,
you
oh
got to
yeah,
remember
so it's
that.
busy, and then you have the Russian Orthodox Church of Moscow, and you have the north over there, and then you have the Greek Orthodox Church of Alexandria in Africa, in all of Africa. So that means their jurisdiction is over all of Africa. Then you have the Greek Orthodox Patriarchate of Jerusalem, which is only over the Holy Land and Jordan. So those are the only, though there are some disputes over like Kuwait, but those are long ago, and so on and so forth. And every kind of jurisdiction is just a geographical area in which that church operates. Now, however, when the church did come to the Americas, they couldn't operate. They had to operate under kind of like layers on top of each other, essentially, because immigrant groups came to the Americas in waves. So the Antiochians, the Middle Eastern immigrants, came and they went to their Antiochian parish here. The Greeks went, and that's why America has all of their various churches. That's why you can find the Russian here, you can find the Antiochians here, you can find the Greeks here. So that's just a little side history note regarding the whole of Orthodoxy coming to the Americas. And eventually, one day, there may just be one church, and that will be the OCA, the Orthodox Church of America. And that's only if every other church decides to give up their decides to basically allow the OCA to just become the one Orthodox Church. But that's years ahead, when, God willing, Orthodoxy becomes the more dominant religion here in America. So yeah.
well,
So yeah, we
that's
got a bit of a unique canonical situation in the New World. So that's a good point you brought up. It's not been the case before. There's all these undiscovered lands and no church set there, right? So we
Yeah.
have a unique canonical situation. I was going to bring that up, so thank you for doing it for me.
Oh,
I
well,
think
that's fine.
yeah. Thank you, Sky.
Wow.
But yeah, I think this is. We better wrap up things for today. But thank you so much for tuning in. We will have more content coming up, and stay tuned. And God bless and Godspeed.
And God willing, we hope to see you all again. Bye bye. Have a good day.